Yo, FlowChat Connector. In this video, we're going to talk about creating your kick-ass sales presentation and what to put in it. What's happening, FlowChat Connector? Sean back at you here with another high-ticket tune-up for our FlowChat sales coaching, sales training episode. Got an amazing question that came in today from Raul. Raul asked this. He said, Sean, any tips on creating a great sales presentation? Yes, I've done so many of these. I have so much developed thought around this, and it all stays focused on what industry are you in? Are you serving B2C, B2B, or B2 government, or something other than that, right? And so the first place we want to start is looking there, because based on where your prospect is or your potential client, we need to gear our presentations or change the focus around just a little bit. And so what I wanted to do is just walk through some of the things that has really served me in being able to close over $130 million in my career. And I know this is going to be really, really valuable because I'm probably going to piss some people off with what I'm about to share with you. So stay tuned. Today we're going to talk about creating your own kick-ass sales presentation. If you disagree with me, again, this is always a conversation. I want to know in the comments below. Don't forget to smash that like button, share this out to the algorithm, and subscribe to the channel if you want more sales. Because I always talk about, like, the longer somebody hangs out with me and Chris, the more money they just make. It's just statistically proven over the last 25 years. So with that said, let's get into it. All right. First and foremost, creating your kick-ass sales presentation. Whew. Okay, what do we do when we come to presentations? Well, there's a couple of things. Let's talk about the old way versus the new way. That's very simple and very easy to do. So first and foremost, what is the old way? This is the way that I learned. This is the way most people have learned. And so first and foremost, when you start with a presentation, the old way, it's, hey, let's open a slide deck. Here's our company. Here's how great we are. And you dive in and spend a bunch of time talking about past successes, the company story, the vision, where it's going, your company's, why other people have purchased from you in the past. You talk about your company's features and benefits. And then you get into maybe some of the things that get a little bit more important to the prospect, which is like the outcomes of working together. Hey, this is where like some of the case stories would go from clients or anything like that. And then it moves into Q&A, right? And so if you look at just this lineup here, before we go any further in the old way, what do we notice? We notice that this whole entire structure of what we've been learning our whole entire careers is focused on us, not your prospect. And so that's what I meant when I said we need to shift the focus. Because if we have this, like, cool, it's great to know that your company's amazing and you've worked with all these big people and you've done all these great things. And this is typically what happens in the outcomes and the successes. But if I'm a prospect listening to that, I hate that, because I don't care about your company until I know what your company can actually do for me. And so when we're learning how to do presentations, yeah, it's fine to have a format and a structure, but just keep an open mind that doing it that way is not going to close the most deals. And in fact, I was just reading a study from Joe Vitale, actually, and he was saying, it was from Neil Rackham, who authored Spin Selling. I have these books on my desk here because I read them all the time. And what he was saying was they analyzed some of the top closers versus not the closers and what they do in presentations. And one of the things that they found is that the presentations that the top guys do weren't even presentations. And that's where we're going, because if you want to truly turn into a high ticket closing professional, a sales professional, or even a sales ascender, that's where we need to go. See, because what happens is after you dump all this information here, then you start asking Q&A, and then all their objections are going to come out, and then you trial close them. Hey, should we get started? Hey, when do you want the shipment? Like, that's all the stuff we learned way back when we first started sales. And here's what happens, right? You follow up and you trial close, and you follow up some more and you trial close. And what this does is it extends your sales cycle versus a sales process. The sales cycle is the timeline from when you initiate to when you close. The sales process inside of that timeline is all the little steps that we take, right? So in this particular process for this presentation, you can see it's heavily focused on you and your company rather than your prospect and the problem areas that they may have. So let's look now. And I guess, there you go. Close if you're lucky, right? So most of the time, time, what we find is the people running presentations in this fashion are only closing anywhere, and again, 5 to maybe 15%, which is, by industry standards, if you're okay with a 5 to 15% close ratio, that's fine. Like, do it this way, right? It's easy. You can structure, you can do it all the time. There's an easier way. There's a better way. There's a different way. There's a new way that you may want to pay some attention to. So here's the new way. I tried to make it very easy. First and foremost, when we get into the conversation, we don't even open our slide deck. We don't talk about anything. We just set the agenda for the presentation. And what is the agenda going to stay focused on? Well, the agenda is going to stay focused on all the information that you heard before you're doing the presentation. So if you're going into a first meeting and just throwing this presentation deck down, stop doing that and ask some questions about things in their world. Learn some of that information, because now when you come back to do a presentation, or maybe you do it later in that first call, we say, all right, hey, check this out. I'm going to go through this presentation, and there's a couple of things you want to cover in the agenda. You want to cover basically going through their problem areas, and you're going to show how you've actually solved those areas for not only you could solve it for them, but other people. And then also we're going to some case stories and do some other things. This is going to take roughly this amount of time, and then I'll leave time for open Q&A. So you say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is what we're going to see and expect, and this is about how long it's going to take. That's typically the agenda for any presentation that we do. And just keep it simple, right? And then we move into the problem review. And so even if you have like a stacked or a pre-made slide deck, create another slide on the front side of this that says problem areas, right? And in the problem areas, all you want to do is have big bullet points that say, based on our conversation in the past, you mentioned you were struggling with this, you're concerned about that, and you're worried or pissed off that this is happening in your business. And then we stop, okay? We don't just keep going after we say, hey, this is what the agenda is going to be for the call. I want to start here with this problem area review. And you say this, and this are the problems you mentioned you're struggling with. Is that correct? And then they're going to say yes or no. If they say no, you say, what did I miss? And then you change your presentation. If they say yes, then you ask, is there anything else that's changed since we last spoke? Because that will give you a little bit of insight into if that person went and spoke with somebody inside of their company, or they came back, whatever. Now you know what all the problems are. When you know all the problems, that's easy. Now we go to the next step. Next step is focus. So yeah, you're going to have the full slide deck of all your company's stuff, all the stuff on the old way. But instead of going through that, don't even talk about any of that. Jump right to the part in your presentation that addresses the problem area. Example, if you're an SEO agency as an instance, right? And you know that somebody is having trouble with like Google My Business. Well, you don't want to start with paid advertising, because Google My Business paid advertising are totally off the planet. Rather, instead, hey, you're struggling with getting your Google, your business up and running. So look at this particular part of my slideshow, and you skip through all the slides. So it looks like you're going way faster. This appears to be awesome for a prospect. Prospect's like, yes, like I don't have to sit through that stuff anymore. And that is the momentum that you can create by doing this. It's such a powerful trick and a tip. Just use this every single time, right? And you skip right to the problem area and you say, hey, listen, like you mentioned you're struggling with this. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, cool. So in past, we have solved this way. In fact, let me give you an example of this particular client. And this is the same problem they had that you have. And this is what we did. And this is the outcome. Does that make sense? And then they say, yes, right? And then after you focus on the problem, you say, would this solve your problem? Yes or no? Because in a presentation, we don't want to just spew information on somebody. We want to know if we're going to solve their problems, because if we're going to solve their problems, they're going to do business with us. If it's ambiguous and it's not clear, guess what? They're walking away, right? And so what we want to do is address one problem at a time, two problems at a time. And in most presentations, don't do more than 3 problem areas unless it's like totally messy. Just stick to those 3 areas. And each time, right? You just go back through this. You repeat the process for all the problem areas. You say, okay, great. So that would solve the Google My Business issue. Let's talk about your reputation management, because you said you're getting blasted on social. Well, if all these hate articles are popping up or something, as an example in SEO world, right? You say, well, actually we had this. Now it takes about X time to fix this problem, but when we fix it, this is what it looks like. In fact, here's another client that we had. Here's these slides that actually relate to exactly what your problem is. Would this solve the problem? And now I've solved the Google My Business problem, and now I've also solved the reputation management, and then I would go solve a third problem, right? So I repeat the process for this, and then I dive into the last part, which is close, right? So based on everything we've seen today, okay, you mentioned this was your problem, this was your problem, this was your problem. I showed you where and how we could solve that. You actually agreed that it would solve all of your problems. Is moving forward with us something you think you can do? Right then and there, boom, close deal, right? They're either going to say yes, but, or they're going to say yes, here's how do I start? Or they're going to say, I got to actually talk with, and then from there, you've demystified everything and you can move in a direction that says, hey, like you got to go talk with so-and-so. How long is that going to take? Let's get back on the calendar. Do you want me to get on the phone with them? And that will speed the process. Send the recording of the presentation. And at the end, guess what? You're going to have a tremendous amount more of closed deals. So with that said, you've just been tuned up, and there's a couple of comments here. Ash said, is this recorded? This is actually live, Ash. I'm here with you live. Pam says, bring it. Love learning from you, Sean. Thank you, Dr. Pam. You're amazing. Jeff says, hey, Sean, nice to catch you live. Yeah, nice to meet you. Nice to see you. I'm drooling and asleep. Lost Sean, sharing the value. Thanks so much. Well, you're welcome, Dr. Pam. You're amazing, as always. And so with that said, guys, if you're not doing kick-ass sales presentations, please change from the old way to the new way, because it will serve you in your business. With that said, you've just been tuned up. Don't forget to smash that thumbs up button, share this to somebody that might need it, and subscribe to the channel. Love your face, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now.